For more on North Korea, I want to bring in Isaac Stonefish. He's a senior fellow at the Asia Society Center on U.S.-China relations. Isaac, what are President Trump's best options when it comes to addressing the growing North Korean threat?
There are no good options, but I think we know that the worst options all probably involve military action, just because, like my colleagues just said, Seoul is roughly 35 miles from the North Korean border, and the ability for North Korea to devastate Seoul is already proven. And I think what we do need to see at some point between the U.S. and North Korea is some sort of talks. And we also do need to see Trump more involve China in the process. We can see from that map, North Korea sits right on China's border. It's long been in China's sphere of influence. And the more we can get China involved, paradoxically speaking, the less it's America's problem, the more it's China's problem.
Okay, so speaking of that, once again, we are talking about sanctions. They haven't been the most efficient way of applying pressure to North Korea, but we know that China, though China has scaled back a bit, also, China is their primary trading partner when it comes to oil and energy. Do you think that if we can get China to cooperate and apply more severe sanctions in that area, that could really make the difference?
I think the problem is that the reason North Korea is behaving so aggressively is not because it has great access to materials from the outside world, but just because of the way the regime sees itself. And I don't think, so that's one point. The other point is, I really don't think we're going to get China to really firmly sanction North Korea the way that we want it to, because China sees the situation completely differently. They don't think the best way to bring North Korea to the negotiating table is to further strangle them, to further cut them off from the world, but the opposite, that the more we bring them back into the, the world of nations, so to speak, the more likely they will be to talk and to calm down.
So what's really difficult, I guess, for the administration is this needle they have to thread, right? On one hand, a nuclear-armed North Korea is something that no one wants to see. On the other hand, it appears that they are capable now of launching nuclear weapons, at least that can hit U.S. territories like Guam, and certainly now the analysis is that they could potentially hit the mainland of the United States. But when I interviewed the head of Pacific Air Force, General T.J. O'Shaughnessy, he told me that the analysis and the intelligence is that Kim Jong-un is not a madman. Kim Jong-un is not crazy. He is a rational actor, and everything that he is doing suggests that he is a rational actor, that he has a very keen understanding of what he is doing and the responses that he's eliciting. What do you think of that?
I think that's a very good point, and something that we really need to keep reminding people. Kim Jong-un, as far as we know, is not someone who wantonly wants to send nuclear weapons at the United States for kicks, but rather is doing this as part of a sophisticated negotiating strategy and a sophisticated brinksmanship strategy. And so we have to see him as such. We have to see him as a worthy adversary and not someone who's just making a bunch of silly decisions.
So Isaac, then, in your estimation, the rhetoric that's been launched over the past couple of months, because the ramping up of their military capabilities is something that we haven't seen before from North Korea, even the two previous leaders, his father and his grandfather. What does that suggest to you? Does it feel that Kim Jong-un thinks that he is under threat, that he will go the way of Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi, and he doesn't want to see that happen? That's why he's taking these steps.
I think that is one very plausible explanation for why Kim Jong-un has behaved so aggressively as of late. We all saw the footage of Saddam Hussein dying. He probably also saw Gaddafi dying in a ditch, killed by his own people, in part, according to Kim, because he didn't have nuclear weapons. So I think being able to show both his people and the American people the photos of him grandstanding next to a nuclear weapon is a really good deterrent in his mind, and also a deterrent against him being overthrown domestically. It's a way of him being able to show to his people, hey, I'm a strong leader, and I'm protecting you from the Americans.
You know, while Rex Tillerson has been firm in his speech in regards to North Korea, he sort of always keeps the option open for diplomacy and for having North Korea come to the table, but it's always connected to denuclearize North Korea. That doesn't seem like that's a realistic option. We've certainly allowed other countries, I'm thinking of Pakistan, to acquire nuclear weapons and still maintain a diplomatic relationship with them. So is there an option to have a North Korea that has nuclear weapons and we still open diplomatic relations with them and at least get them to the table?
I think that's the best case scenario. Frankly, it seems so unlikely that North Korea would ever give up its nuclear weapons. And why would it? Why does it need to? It has them. It's now a nuclear state. They've won that part of the battle. And the next step is, how do we deal with a nuclear North Korea without risking devastation in South Korea?
And speaking of South Korea, Isaac, the president's tweets, for a lot of people, it felt as if he was attacking South Korea, talking about the fact that they've appeased North Korea and not really. I mean, he certainly has said some things about North Korea, but in this latest go-round, is the rift growing between our ally, South Korea, and perhaps even Japan?
It certainly seems to. And Trump has a strange habit of attacking democratic states more than he attacks authoritarian ones. You know, he was much kinder to China on his last tweet storm, and to North Korea, frankly, than he was to the democracy that is South Korea. And it really does seem that Trump has more and more of a problem with Moon's idea of diplomacy towards North Korea, which I think is a much better strategy in all than Trump's throwing out these really aggressive threats one day and then talking calmly one day, and then one member of the administration saying all for diplomacy and the other one's threatening war. I mean, we are a really, really messy strategy here, and it seems Trump is sort of trying to paper over that with attacking South Korea.
Isaac Stonefish, thank you so much.
Thank you.